This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granick-Allen. It's time for our current events panel. We are going to cover the issues with Google's AI platform, Gemini, the recent UK ban on puberty blockers, a new lawsuit against the government over the use of the Emergencies Act, remember that, the online harms bill known as Bill 36, and why it has everyone up in arms. And we're going to top it off with a female professor who was canceled from a Women's Day event. So many issues, never enough time, so let's get right to it. Joining me now are political commentators Brock Stephenson and Hannah Salamon-Vegh. Brock, Hannah, thank you so much. I'm glad to have you back on today.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so let's jump right into the UK puberty blockers issue. So the UK seems to has now announced they're banning it. They're saying no more access, only under specific conditions. But this is probably the first major Western country to say, done, we're not having this anymore. Hannah, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so the NHS in England said that they will not be prescribing puberty blockers at any of their gender clinics for children and youth. I think anyone under the age of 18, after an independent research study was done on the effectiveness and the safety of puberty blockers on children. And the review came back saying there was not enough evidence about the safety or effectiveness of said puberty blockers. And this is across all of England and the UK, which is a huge I think a turn in the right direction. Different states in the United States have been moving this direction as well after many transgender young people have been, or detransitioners, formerly transgender young people have been coming forward saying that they were given these drugs like with just one consultation with a doctor when they had confusions about their identity, and then they later regretted it, and now they can't have kids, and some of them have gone through surgery as well, and they're really regretting the decisions that they made when they were underage and not able to make proper decisions for themselves.
So, Brock, is this a step in the right direction? I mean, we've seen something similar from Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta. To my understanding, she's the only one in this country who's kind of taken a stand on this issue. Others have either remained neutral or taken a stand in favor of puberty blockers. What are your thoughts?
Alberta is the only province that's taken a stand on this. I think the real challenge is these people who are requesting puberty blockers are children, and I think that even with parent consultation, changing the future path of a child's a major life decision. I think that that's something that's very difficult. If you're reversing in one direction, then change your mind and go in the other, I think you could have lots of trouble. The real issue, I think, is the mental health crisis that children are being exposed to so many ideas in the school system, and gender identity is among them. I think that's something that's causing part of the confusion and dysphoria for tweens, teens, young people who think they're born the wrong gender. And I think that's something that wasn't a problem a generation ago. I think this is causing great difficulty for Western civilization.
Yes, it's definitely. I mean, who would have thought 15 years ago this would be the issue that was most front and center in many developing nations' minds? But it's definitely causing many to pause. Now, there is a caveat, though. The NHS, which is the National Health Service, their health system in the UK, they still allow actually for patients to access it if it's part of research. So if a child is participating in a research study, then they can access, obviously with parental involvement, these puberty blockers. So just to make it clear, it's not like a full 100% ban. We've seen Premier Doug Ford in Ontario double down saying, no, these things are here to stay. He's not going to do what Danielle Smith has done, which is effectively ban these puberty blockers. Do you expect other provinces to follow suit? Brock, why don't you respond?
I think some other provinces might follow suit, but I think that it takes a strong conscience one way or the other for a government to take a strong stand, and I suspect most provinces will go out of their way to avoid taking a position.
Hannah, the UK, obviously a major G7 player here. This is a huge country. Is this where we see the tides turning on this issue? Again, gender ideology seems to be a very hot button issue. Puberty blockers, gender reassignment surgery, again, very hot button issues. Are things going to change now?
I think things are changing. This is a sign of them changing. There's a giant experiment going on right now on children, and we don't have proper research on these drugs. I personally don't believe anyone's born in the wrong body, and I don't think most children just randomly wake up one day and like, I'm born in the wrong body. It's because they're being taught these things at school. Their teachers are telling them these things. We see this in the sex ed curriculum. We're seeing this online. So I think it's because of outside sources, and people who are struggling with dysmorphia need counseling. They don't need irreversible drugs.
Okay, we'll be right back.